So we're starting with the questions I had just asked you to work on. They were on page 33 and 34. Oh, you can't see on the screen. So starting off, it says which location on the graph best represents a star with average brightness and temperature? Where do we see average temperatures and brightnesses? What's that group of stars called? No, that's called the main sequence. So the main sequence is where all the average stars live. So that's this group here that we talked about last week. So main sequence on this is letter B. The average length of a year is based on, so first of all, they've got rotation and revolution. Is a year based on rotation or revolution? Revolution, that's a fact you gotta know. So it is not 1 or 2. 3 and 4 are classic things that regions are gonna do to mess with you. Does the Earth revolve at 15 degrees per hour or 1 degree per day? It is 1 degree per day. Where does that come from? Remember, our trip around the sun is about 360 degrees, which takes about 365 days. And when you do the math, this comes out to about 1 degree per day. Now, where did the 15 degrees per hour come from? Because that's another, what is that? That's a singular day. That might be something you want to remember, that a day is a day. What's a day based on? Rotation or revolution? Day is based on rotation. And how many degrees of rotation does the Earth do every day? So how many degrees in one rotation? 360. How long does it take to rotate 360 degrees? 24 hours. And by the way, when you divide 360 divided by 24, that's 15 degrees per hour. The Milky Way, what's the best way to describe the Milky Way? Which number to pick? Show me on your fingers, please. It is number 4. The Milky Way is a spiral-shaped formation composed of billions of stars. It is not a solar system. A solar system is one star with planets that revolve around a star. Oh. Now, I know we haven't talked much about Pluto. I guess I'm hoping you remember from back in the day. Where is Pluto in our solar system? Perfect, I love it. Bunch of you just pointed out or said out that way. Pluto's very, very, very far away from the sun, which should hopefully remind you of why Mercury, where's Mercury? Oh no, where's Mercury? It's the closest to the sun. Is that something you have to memorize, by the way? No, right here. Now the whole Pluto part, by the way, they won't ask you about Pluto on the regions, but I was hoping you at least remembered where Pluto was. This solar system data, these planets are listed in their distances from the sun. So Mercury's the closest. So why does Mercury move the fastest? Well, because it's closer to the sun. And I'm curious how many of you fell for the trick on question 5, because I did. What's located at X? Who said, show me what you picked? Oh, yeah. What'd you just read, Sam? Geocentric model. I'm not gonna lie, when I did my answer key, I was going as fast as possible and I did not read all the words. And I got this one wrong. Does that make it okay? No, it doesn't. It just proves that it can mess with even your teacher if you don't read all the words. The direction said this is a geocentric model. So if this is a geocentric model, what's located at X? Earth. Please, guys, read all the words. Don't be like me and read all the words.
Hey, so your role is to read all the words.
I was in a very big hurry and I did not listen to my own rules and I fudged up. This next one, so I was harassing Phoenix a little bit earlier and he asked, well, how big is Venus? I don't know off the top of my head. It seems like a perfect question for Google, but you can't Google on the real region. So if if you have the urge to Google, odds are the answer is oh geez, your answer is in your reference table somewhere. So this is the only reference table that even mentions Venus. What should I be looking for to answer which one of these is correct?
Which side?
This size, but do I work on diameter, or mass for size? Diameter is going to tell me how big that circle of Venus should be. What you should be noticing is that Venus and Earth are only like 600-ish kilometers apart. When we're talking about 12,000 kilometers, 600 kilometers difference is not very noticeable. So it is 4. What's wrong with 1? Because that kind of looks almost the same. In that case, you can see that Earth is a tiny bit smaller. Venus is smaller, yes, like these two, but it's not that much smaller. A difference of 600 kilometers is barely noticeable, so that would be answer number 4. How do you figure out which one of these has the lowest density? It's how many? I don't think it's that much that much difference, but I'm not sure.
I calculated.
Okay, so whatever it is, it's not very far. So noticing that much difference you wouldn't even see it really. So back to this, how do we figure out which one has the lowest density? Yeah, again, that seems like something stupid random fact that you would just Google. And when you Googled it up, or when you don't Google it up and you look here, here's the density. Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. So out of those 4 choices, Mars has the lowest by far. The actual orbits, are they elliptical or circular? Elliptical. We get rid of 2 choices. Is the Earth at one foci or is the Sun at one foci? Sun is at one foci. Now, question 9, you might have been able to think about it and figure it out, but it's nothing I taught you. It's nothing I've seen on the Regents, but why would we see only Mercury and Venus to have phases? Yeah, they're the only ones that revolve around the sun inside Earth's orbit. Yes. They do math. So they can figure out how big it is. They know what it's made out of based on the color of it and science, and then they do math. So they work backwards. All right, how'd you guys do on these questions? Okay, this is only part of what's on the test tomorrow, because this was just solar system stuff, which you may have noticed was not on yesterday's review at all. So this was a perfect to combine with yesterday's review. And it is my understanding that you guys have already gone over the first page, right? Yeah. All right, let me find my answer key. I don't know where I put it. I think I found it. So just in case, I will put these up here for anybody watching the video and wants to pause it. Those are the answers from yesterday. Then I would move on to today's. One thing that I would do with this is before I even start answering the questions. Oh, never mind, they're already labeled. I was going to say I would label them. How would we know that this one right here would have been June? It's the highest in the sky. What else? Rises in the northeast, sets in the northwest, and it's got the longest path to travel. I would have labeled them, they're already labeled, so let's go through this. Which direction does the sun rise in summer? That's the northeast, because the sun is like old people and goes south for the summer, north south for the winter and back north for the summer. So where does it rise in the winter? Just like old people, it went south, southeast. And then for spring and fall, that's when it rises directly east. How long is the sun out for the fall? That's not 12 hours. Winter, it's 9 hours. Just remember that that's the shortest. You don't actually have to know the exact number there. And same with how long is it out in the summer? 15, just know that that's the longest. Where do we look to see the noon sun? Guys, you just got to remember the sun is always south at noon. And then where do we look to see Polaris? Polaris is always north. As we go from sunrise to noon, your shadow gets smaller. Why? Why does your shadow get smaller? What about the angle?
Because of how high it goes.
Because it gets higher. The higher the angle, the shorter the shadow. So then from noon to sunset, it's going to get longer. And here's why. So why? Because the angle of insolation and the intensity from rise to noon, the angle goes up, so does the intensity. Noon to sunset, the angle goes down, and so does the intensity. 13, greatest insolation, summer. Least is winter. Does the sun ever reach the zenith in New York State? No, it does not. Sunset in winter, southwest. In fall and spring, west. Summer, northwest. Does the sun actually move? No. Why do we see it move? It's because of the Earth's rotation. From season to season, how many degrees does the noon sun move? 23.5. Question 21 and 22, I would have taken different answers. So why is it cold in New York State during the winter? One could be because we're tilted away from the sun. What would another reason be? Why is it cold in winter? Low angle. Low angle, and less hours of insolation. Need to know those for the test tomorrow. And then the opposite is true. Why is it hot in summer? Because we're tilted towards the sun, which gives us a high angle and more hours of daylight. Why does the sun shift its path during the seasons? That's because of the Earth's revolution. And remember that if this was noon, the shadow is always opposite the sun. Sun's over here then. And the sun is always south at noon. So that's why it's letter A. Any of those who need me to go over? This is a great review sheet for tomorrow. The only thing I would say that you would have to do that's not on here is these are labeled, and we already went through. You need to be able to know the highest one is summer, lowest one is winter, spring and fall are in between. But everything on here will be on the test tomorrow. Which then goes a lot towards this one. So what season is this? How did I know this was spring or fall? Okay, so Drake's saying he kind of guessed it was spring or fall because summer the sun is higher and winter the sun is lower. I'd buy that. There's another dead set reason I know it's spring or fall though. Rises and sets dead east and dead west. So that was truly the only reason you knew for sure. Drake, your reasoning works. It's just not like with nothing to compare to, it's hard to say that this is like middle-ish. Especially since they did not say specifically in the directions that this was New York State. I guess you could have figured out it was New York State because Polaris was there, but the dead smack reason is that you know that they rise directly east and directly west on spring and fall. So the noon sun, you would have just had to measure that from these angles. Should have been around 48. Where would your shadow be? So remember, the sun is always south, so your shadow will always be north. Altitude of Polaris, that would have been around 42. There's multiple correct answers for what city this could have been. Do you have to memorize cities and their latitude? No. You do need to remember that altitude of Polaris equals your latitude. And so if we know Polaris is 42, then your latitude's 42. So I would have taken Jamestown or Elmira or Binghamton or Slidemount or Kingston. What would it be in summer? Well, if this is fall or spring, the sun will get 23.5 degrees higher for summer. So 48 plus 23.5 gives you 71.5. What's zenith? It's the point directly overhead the observer. Does the sun ever reach the observer or zenith for New York State? No. Why? Because we're not in the tropics. Yeah, I would say because we're not near the equator is good enough. Length of shadow, sunrise to noon gets shorter because the sun gets higher in the sky. Noon to sunset, your shadow increases, again, because the sun gets lower. Longest noon shadow will be winter. Greatest angle of insolation is summer, which then gives us the shortest shadow in summer. And the lowest angle is winter. Any of those you need repeated or explained. Again, everything on here is going to be on the test tomorrow. Moon phases. We have not talked about this for the test. This will be on there tomorrow. So number 1 should have been a new moon, all dark. 2 should have been a waxing crescent, just a little bit of light on the right. Waxing quarter is a half and half with the light on the right. Waxing gibbous, mostly light with the light on the right. Full moon, all light. Number 6 should be a waning gibbous, mostly light with the light on the left. We got waning quarter, that's half and half with the light on the left. And then a waning crescent, just a little bit of light with the light on the left. Spring tide, highest high tides, lowest low tides. If you're studying, you might want to remind yourself of that. Highest high tide and lowest low tide. That happens when the moon and the sun work together to pull the water. So the highest high tides and lowest low tides, the spring tide, happen when the sun and the moon and the earth are in a perfect straight line. So 1 and 5. A neap tide is the exact opposite of that. So that's going to be 3 and 7. Which one of these could produce a solar eclipse? Remember, that's when the moon blocks the earth from seeing the sun. So that'll be position 1. Which one will be a lunar eclipse? That's when the earth's shadow blocks the moon. That'll be number 5. Did I talk to you guys yet about only seeing one side of the moon? I don't think I did. Let's talk about that. Have you ever heard of the man in the moon?
Yeah.
You know why? Because when you look at the moon, the craters that we can see on the moon almost make a smiley face, 2 eyes, and a mouth situation. Has a man. It's a stretch, I know, but whatever. We only ever see that side of the moon. It doesn't matter if we can see a new moon, or it doesn't matter if we're seeing a quarter, a crescent, a gibbous, or if we should be seeing a new moon. On that moon, the side facing Earth is always those 3 craters, making 2 eyes and a mouth. Any idea why that would happen? We never see the other side. There could be a whole moon residence up there that we can't even see because it's on the back of the moon. Any idea why? You guys are going to be Earth right now, and I'm going to revolve around you. You 3 in the back, I'm sorry, you're going to have to pretend you're up here. I'm gonna revolve around you. Do you guys notice me revolving around you? What side of me would you be able to see if you were looking at me? My front side, you'd see my face.
What about
I told them they'd have to pretend they're up here. So you guys just saw my face. You never saw my back. But did I move? I revolved. I clearly just revolved around you. But did my body rotate at all? Let's see, that's where you're wrong. My body did rotate. I made one full circle. Want to see it again?
Oh,
Tough, because did you see me rotate?
yeah.
Okay, why don't you explain to me how I rotate?
How about you have Phoenix show us?
That, making a circle around you, that was revolving.
Yeah, but you were like slightly turning.
Was that?
You were?
Watch this. Which way is my face looking in comparison to my room right now?
More.
The back of my room,
Head trash.
okay? I'm looking at Job's room right now, right? So as I revolve,
No, you're not.
now I'm facing which way?
Windows.
Window. I keep going. Now where am I facing? Miga's room, sure, north, well, never mind, that's west. But now I keep revolving, which way am I facing now? Locker or hallway. Did my body turn? It must have, right? It had to have, because I went from looking from Joe's to the windows, to Miga's, to the hallway. My body turned around one time. How fast did my body turn around? Very slowly. In fact, it turned around one time for my one circle around you, didn't it? Went from facing Job's to windows to Miga to the hallway, just like if I did it right here. Job's, windows, Miga, hallway. My body turned around once, but it only turned around one time in my trip around you. Fun fact, take a look at the moon's rotation and revolution speed. They're the same. That was what I just did. My rotation was equal to my revolution around you. So why do you only see one side of the moon? Because the rotation and the revolution are equal. So number 5, rotation and revolution are equal. And what causes the phases? That would be the revolution of the moon around the earth. I've never seen questions that ask for the exact numbers of the brightness or the temperatures. So for Betelgeuse, it's about 5,000 times bright, or 500,000 times brighter than our sun. And it has a temperature of around 3,500 Kelvin. This next one, Rigel or I have no idea, is about 400,000 times brighter and about 11,000 or 12,000 Kelvin. Anybody need those explained? Because those are a little weird. Now, don't ever forget the name of the reaction that produces light within a star, because you will never forget FU sun. What does FU sun stand for? Fusion. FU for nuclear fusion, not the bad words FU. And not sun like some of you are boy children, but sun like that sun in our sky. So never forget FU sun. FU sun. FU sun is what you're never supposed to forget. It stands for nuclear fusion, fusion, not. I'm not. I'm teaching you the difference between nuclear fission and fusion. I don't say FI sun. I said FU sun. Fusion. Just don't forget it, okay? And then what is the fuel? This part you do got to remember. On the sun, we take 2 hydrogen atoms and fuse them. We fuse them and into helium. So we take hydrogen and fuse it into helium. The majority of stars are on the main sequence. Our own sun is part of the main sequence. Don't worry about number 7, but it will turn into a red giant. The Earth revolves around the sun. That's why we can only see Orion in the winter and not in the summer. Sirius is a white or blue-white star, and Aldebaran is a giant. Questions on any of those? And finally, eccentricity. So this really covered everything that's going to be on that test tomorrow. You might have a slightly different answer than mine, 0.672. What happens to the star's velocity as it gets closer? It increases. The more elliptical it gets, so the more oval it gets, the eccentricity will get higher or closer to 1. And a low eccentricity means it's round. All right, we are running out of time. I handed back to you. I handed back your moon quiz. Your moon quiz looked like this. So 1, make sure you have the right answers. 2, make sure you understand. A solar eclipse happens when you're standing on Earth and the moon blocks the sun. So that would have happened at C. And then which phase would A be? A lot of people skipped that question, guys, just because there's no multiple choice doesn't mean to skip it. And then a bunch of people told me it was a new, and I think that's because you forgot to turn it and cover up the back. So when you cover up the back, you would see all light, which would be a full moon. Now we also, a lot of people screwed this one up. Yes, it does take a moon 27.3 days to revolve around the Earth. But to get back to that full moon phase, what does the Earth do while the moon's going around it? It's also revolving, so it takes a giant step forward. So to get back into that new moon position takes a couple extra days. So that's why it takes 29.5 to go from full moon to full moon. Number 4, we reviewed earlier. Remember, when the moon and the Earth and the sun are in a nice straight line, you'll get the highest high tides and the lowest low tides. August 17th would fit in between August 13th and August 20th. If August 13th was a waning quarter, and then we got to a new moon, it's getting smaller with the light on the left still. So that's why it's D, a waning crescent. Again, a solar eclipse. This is the same question as the last one. What happened when you're standing on Earth and the moon blocks the sun? So that would be M1. And then it asks, what would M3 be? Again, you have to turn it. So your paper, moon number 3 is on top, cover up the back half. You see all light. That one would be a full moon, which is letter C. A lot of you got this one wrong. Why does the moon's size change from month to month? And that's because the moon gets closer or farther away from the Earth because it's got an elliptical orbit. Again, the passage of the moon into Earth's shadow, that is by definition a lunar eclipse. Again, if you had turned your paper, covered up the back half, this moon is all light. That's a full moon, answer A. Why do we have phases? Well, the fact that it moves from this spot to this spot to this spot to this spot to this spot, that's revolution. And finally, moon number, that location would be a new moon, all dark. I also gave you back your seasons quiz. Let me quickly give you the answers to that. We did in this class?
Yeah.
Then what, a whole bunch of you were just absent? Is that why I still had them?
I think you have to pay the
Okay, so that might have been. So if you need the answers to the seasons quiz, if I just gave that back to you, let me know. So you have no official homework tonight, but you guys have a test tomorrow. And let me also point out that I will not be reviewing chapter 9 again. So after tomorrow, when you take that quiz, I'm done talking about chapter 9. We will be reviewing chapters 1 through 8, starting on Friday. Okay? Tomorrow is Thursday.